In the last video, you have studied about autotrophic nutrition. So now, today, let us start with heterotrophic nutrition. So what do you mean by heterotrophic nutrition? So as we all know that hetero meaning many or which is depending on other. So in this topic, so we are going to study about this heterotrophic nutrition in different animals. Now, how you will define this heterotrophic nutrition? So we can define it as the organisms which are depending on others for their food or for their nutrients, so they are called as heterotrophs, and this kind of nutrition is called as heterotrophic nutrition. And also we know that in our environment there are so many organisms, and all these organisms are adapted to their environment. So depending on this adaptation, they have different kind of nutrition. So for example, if you consider a cow which is a herbivore, it is depending on the grass which is stationary. And if we consider another example, that is a lion or a tiger, these are carnivores. They are depending on meat. So if they eat deer, the deer is mobile. So in these cases, the mode of availability and accessing of the food, it differs, because whenever a cow eats the grass does not move because it is stationary, whereas to access the food in case of lion or tiger, the food is in movement, that means it is mobile. So depending on all these conditions, the mode of nutrition depends. And apart from all this kind, we have majorly three kind of heterotrophic nutrition. So we will discuss them one by one. The first mode of nutrition we will discuss, that is holozoic nutrition. Now let us study what is the meaning of holozoic nutrition. So in this holozoic nutrition, the organism, they directly intake their food as a whole, and then they will intake this nutrition in their body. So for example, humans, so we eat the food which we get from the plant or from any other sources. So after eating, the digestion of the food starts from our mouth, and the complete digestion ends in the intestine, which happens in our body, that means within our body. So this kind of nutrition is called as what? Holozoic nutrition. That means in case of holozoic nutrition, the animals, they intake the food as a whole and then they will digest in their body. So this is called as holozoic nutrition. So for example, we can write humans. And if we consider the second mode of nutrition, so the second one is saprophytic nutrition. Now what do you mean by saprophytic nutrition? So in this kind of nutrition, the organisms, they will not intake the food as a whole. Instead of that, all these organisms depending on others which are dead or under decaying. So these kind of organisms are called as saprophytes, and the type of nutrition is called as saprophytic nutrition. So let us take the example. So the example for this is, you may all know that fungi or a bread mold. So these grows on other food which are dead or decayed. So this kind of nutrition is called as saprophytic nutrition. So what do you mean by the saprophytic? That means the organisms which intake the nutrition from dead or decayed matter. And the third mode of nutrition is parasitic nutrition. Now what do you mean by parasite? So commonly we know that which are depending on others, but here in case of parasitic nutrition, these organisms, they are depending on other animals for their food, right? But they will not kill that host. So these kind of organisms are called as parasites, and the type of nutrition is called as parasitic nutrition. So let us take the example. For example, lice which may be present in your head. So sometimes you will feel like itching in your head, right? So these are because of lice. So this lice will not kill you. Instead of that, just it will suck the blood from your head. That means it is a parasite. So this kind of nutrition is called as parasitic nutrition. Now let us look at the examples. So this is mushroom, which gets its food from the dead matter. So it belongs to which kind of nutrition? Saprophytic nutrition. And bread mold is example for saprophytic nutrition, and it is the example for ticks, and these ticks are example for parasites because it sucks the blood but it will not kill the host. And here lice, which is present in your head, it is example for saprophytic nutrition, not saprophyte, example for parasite. And these ticks also example for parasite. And one more example, plant, it is amber bell. So this amber bell is also an example for parasitic nutrition. So now let us recall all these three modes again. So the first one, holozoic, animals which eats the food as a whole and then digest it in their body. And the second one is saprophyte, which digest the food outside their body and then they will take in. And the third mode is parasite, which directly gets their nutrients from the host but they will not kill the host. And these are some examples for saprophytes, and these three are example for parasite. Now we will learn about that holozoic in the next topic. So now let us move on to the next topic, that is how do organisms obtain their nutrition. So we all know that in nature we have two kinds of organisms. One is unicellular and multicellular. Before studying that multicellular, let us learn the mode of heterotrophic nutrition in case of unicellular organism. So for example, if you take the example that is amoeba. So this amoeba is an example for unicellular organism. Then how does the unicellular organism obtain their nutrients? Because they do not have any mouth or any other parts to get the food. Now take the amoeba as an example to learn heterotrophic nutrition. As you can see in this picture, the amoeba is a unicellular organism, and also from the previous videos or from the previous class you already learned that since the body is made up of only one cell and the whole body is in direct contact with the environment, right? And for that reason, whenever the food particle comes near to the amoeba body, so the cell membrane of the amoeba, it is flexible in nature, and due to that flexible nature they forms a furrow-like structure. So the furrow-like structure is called as pseudopodia. So here let us recall the meaning of the pseudopodia. So here pseudo meaning false and podia meaning like. That means we will call this pseudopodia as false leg. So what is the function of leg? So usually the leg helps in movement. So here the pseudopodia helps in movement of the amoeba. So along with that, the pseudopodia also helps the amoeba to intake the food particle. So how? So whenever the food particle comes near to the cell membrane, it forms the pseudopodia. Then the food enters into the pseudopodia. After that, the amoeba, it closes and dissolves the inner membrane by forming a food vacuole. So when it forms the food vacuole, the digestive enzymes which are present in the cytoplasm, they breaks down the food into simple nutrients, and the waste which are generated, they gets excreted out of the amoeba body by the simple process called as diffusion. So in this way amoeba obtain its nutrition, right? And If we consider one more example, that is paramecium. So briefly I will write the diagram here. So consider this as a paramecium, and this paramecium, they have numerous hair-like structures on their body, and these hair-like structures are called as cilia. So this cilia helps the paramecium to intake the food. How? So when a food particle comes near to the paramecium, so these cilia, they moves the food particle near to the opening in the paramecium. We can call it as a mouth opening. So when the food particle comes near to the mouth opening, it intakes the food and it passes into the body. So when the food particle enters into the body, due to the digestive enzyme, it breaks down and all the waste will get excreted from a certain part. So this happens in paramecium. So these are the two examples of unicellular organism, and how does the heterotrophic nutrition takes place in unicellular organisms. Then how does the multicellular organism obtain their food? So let us learn. So as we know that multicellular organisms are made up of many cells. So for that reason they have a particular tissues or organ systems to do a particular function. So in case of multicellular organism, they have a system that is called as digestive system. So then we will learn about this digestive system and how does the food is digested in the digestive system of multicellular organism, and also here we can say it as an they have alimentary canal. So now let us learn this digestive system of which body, that is in case of human body. So as you can see in this picture, so we have a alimentary canal of human body, right? What are the different parts of this alimentary canal? Look at here. They have mouth, and next to mouth is the pharynx, next to this esophagus, then stomach, then pancreas, then small intestine, and here which it is representing this colon, this cecum, and these parts we call it as a large intestine, and after this it has a rectum, and at the end they have anus. So this complete structure, the long tubular structure of this digestive system is called as alimentary canal. So alimentary canal is a long tubular structure which helps in digestion of the food. Now we will learn the function of these parts one by one. So the first part we will take is mouth. So what happens in mouth of human body during digestion of the food? We know that this mouth has a cavity, right? And this cavity is called as buccal cavity or mouth cavity. So in the mouth cavity it has teeth. Now what is the function of teeth? So teeth helps in breaking and chewing of the food, as you all know that. So we have 4 types of teeth: incisors, canines, premolars and molars. So all these teeth, they have a particular function, and along with that in the mouth cavity it has tongue. So this tongue, it helps in speaking, and along with that this tongue also helps in proper mixing of the food with saliva. That means whenever you feel a food, when you are, especially when you are hungry, our mouth waters. So what is the name of this water? So that water is called as saliva, and this saliva, it is secreted by salivary gland. That means in mouth we have which gland? Salivary gland. So that means we have three pairs of salivary glands. So these salivary glands, they secrete saliva. Then what does the saliva contains? So the saliva contains water, salt, mucin, and along with that it has an enzyme called as thialin. And this thialin enzyme we will commonly call it as amylase enzyme. So this amylase enzyme, it performs the function of breaking down of starch into maltose in our mouth. So you can feel it easily. So whenever you eat sugar, so at the start we will not feel the taste, but gradually the taste of the sugar increases in the mouth because of the function of this amylase. That means it breaks the starch into maltose. So this maltose is commonly example for sugar. So for this reason we will feel taste. Now to say this, we have to do an activity. So in brief we will take that activity. So take two test tubes and mark these two test tubes as A and B, and then in these two test tubes we have to take 1 ml of 1% starch. So what we took in the first step, we took 1 ml of 1% starch in each test tube, and then in these two test tubes what we have to do is, to the test tube B we will add 1 ml of saliva. Now what we did, in the first step we took two test tubes, we marked it as A and B, and in these two test tubes we took 1 ml of 1% starch. The color of the starch is white in color, and then what we did, we are added 1 ml of saliva to test tube B, right? And then after this what we have to do is, we have to put few drops of iodine. Put the solution, iodine solution, to both A and B. Now leave it for some time. So after some time what we can observe is our observation. We observe that purple color in test tube A but not in test tube B. Now what is the reason? Look at the conditions. Same condition, that means we took two test tubes, and in both the test tube we have starch, and to both test tube we are added iodine solution, but the only difference is the test tube A, it does not contain saliva, whereas the test tube B has saliva. That means in this activity this saliva, it did some work in test tube B. That is, the saliva, it breaks the starch into maltose. So for that reason we did not observe which color, the purple color in test tube B, whereas in test tube A, since it contains starch, and along with that since we are added iodine, from the previous activities we know that the starch with iodine, it gives which color? That is purple color. So by this activity we can conclude the action of saliva, that is salivary amylase or thialin enzyme on starch, which breaks the starch into maltose. So this process happens in which part of the digestive system? That is in the mouth. Now after the breaking and proper mixing of the food with saliva, the food becomes soft and it moves into the alimentary canal. Next part is pharynx. So this pharynx is a funnel-like structure which passes the food from mouth to esophagus. Now our next part in the alimentary canal is esophagus. So here this esophagus, it is a long tubular structure, but the function of esophagus is same like that of pharynx, that is it passes the food from the pharynx to stomach. But here we have to recall one function of the esophagus. The major function is peristaltic movement. Now what do you mean by peristaltic movement? So here the lining of the alimentary canal, it is majorly made up of muscle, and these muscle they shows contraction and relaxation. So this contraction and relaxation of the muscle which are present on the walls of alimentary canal, it causes a wave like action. So like this. So this wave like action, it pushes the food forward in the alimentary canal. So what? The muscles which are present on the walls of the alimentary canal, they shows contraction and relaxation. So this contraction and relaxation, it forms a wave like formation. So this wave like formation, it moves the food forward in the alimentary canal. So this wave like action of the muscles in the alimentary canal which pushes the food forward is called as peristaltic movement. So this peristaltic movement continuously it happens in alimentary canal because of contraction and relaxation of the muscle. So you can feel it if you stand upside down, and if you eat the food, easily the food moves in your alimentary canal which is against gravity. So that is because of which movement? Peristaltic movement. So now due to this peristaltic movement, the food from the mouth, it comes to the pharynx, pharynx to esophagus, esophagus to stomach. So now we will move to our major part, that is stomach. So here the stomach, it is a J-shaped or C-shaped structure. Now which part we are taking? We are taking stomach. Which shape? Commonly it is a C, that means reverse of the C, or it may be, we can say it as a J-shaped structure. So the stomach, it has glands which are called as gastric glands. So these gastric glands, they secrete their secretion. That is, first we will take mucus. So this mucus is secreted by the gastric gland. Now what is the function of this mucus? So this mucus protects this inner lining of the stomach. What it will do is, the mucus, it protects the inner lining of the stomach from the acidic medium, that means HCl, which are secreted by the gastric gland. Now what is the function of mucus? Mucus protects the stomach from burning. So who will burn? Stomach. Now next secretion is HCl, that is hydrochloric acid. So this hydrochloric acid, which is secreted by the gastric gland, it may burn the stomach, but it will not do because of the presence of mucus. So this is the function of mucus. Now what is the function of this HCl? So HCl, it gives which medium? Acidic medium. To whom? Because this gastric gland also secretes an enzyme called as pepsin. So for the action of pepsin on protein, they need acidic medium. So this acidic medium for the pepsin is provided by HCl. So this is one function, and along with that, this HCl, it also kills germs which are present in the food. So this is the function of HCl. And then along with that, our stomach also secrete, that means the gastric glands which are present in the stomach also secrete the enzyme called as pepsin. Now what is the function of this pepsin? So pepsin is an enzyme, that means a digestive enzyme which breaks the proteins. So this is the function of pepsin. Now what are the major secretions of gastric gland which are present in stomach? They secrete mucus which protects the inner lining of the stomach from burning, from HCl, and then the second secretion is HCl, that is hydrochloric acid, which gives acidic medium to pepsin and also it kills germs, and the third secretion is pepsin which breaks the proteins. And then in the stomach, apart from these three secretions, the stomach also stores the food. This is another function of the stomach. Commonly we all know that the stomach stores the food from 3 to 6 hours. So depending on the type of nutrient, for example, if it is a carbohydrate, the lifetime of the carbohydrate in the stomach is less, but for protein it is larger. And during this storage time in the stomach, what the stomach will do is, due to the contraction of the muscle, it causes churning, that means proper mixing of the food with other gastric juices, and it forms a curd like structure called as chyme. So in the stomach, finally our food becomes a curd like structure called as chyme. So after this, that means after the time, that means 3 to 6 hours, this chyme moves into the next part of the alimentary canal, that is small intestine, bit by bit by the wall called as, in this picture it is not mentioned, it is called sphincter muscle. So this sphincter muscle, it helps in the movement of the food bit by bit from stomach to small intestine. But here, when the food enters into the small intestine, the food is in which condition? The food is in acidic condition, right? So now what it has to do is, it has to convert the acidic food into base, not base, that means it must be neutralized. So here, the small intestine, it is also connected to another organs, that is called as pancreas, and along with that it is also connected to liver. So here the liver, it secrete the juice called as bile, and this bile is stored in bile duct, and this bile contains salts. So if we name the salts, they are called as sodium glycocolate and sodium taurocolate. So these are the salts which are present in bile. So these salts, what they will do is, so these salts, they emulsifies fat, that means they covers the fat, and this emulsification of the fat helps the breaking of large globules of fat into small globules. So this is the function of bile. So the bile secretes salts called as sodium glycocolate and sodium taurocolate, and these salts, they emulsifies the fat, that means they covers the fat, and which helps in breaking of the large globules of fat into small globules, and which makes the breaking of the fat easier. And along with that, the small intestine is also connected to one more organ that is called pancreas. So this pancreas are also called as what we can say glands, that means exocrine and endocrine. It performs both function, so it is called as mixed gland. But here, since we are studying only about digestion, we will learn the digestive function of the pancreas. So this pancreas also secrete some salts, which are called as bicarbonate salt, in that majorly sodium bicarbonate. So the sodium bicarbonate, commonly we know that it is in which condition? Basic in condition. Now what is the condition here is the food which is coming from the stomach is in which medium? Acidic medium. And the pancreas, it is secreting salt which is sodium bicarbonate and which is in basic medium. As we know that when acid and bases reacts together, it causes a reaction called as neutralization reaction. So this happens in the small intestine. So these salts, they remove the acidic nature of the food and it helps in action of the pancreatic juices on the food. So apart from secretion of the salt, this pancreas also secrete pancreatic juices which helps in digestion of the food. And for the proper functioning of all these pancreatic juices, it needs neutral medium or some little basic medium, and this basic medium and neutralization of that acidic food, it takes place with the help of sodium bicarbonate which is in basic condition. And then what are the secretions which are secreted by pancreas, or what are the names of these pancreatic juices? So we will learn little bit. The pancreatic juices, it contains the enzyme called as trypsin. So this trypsin is an protein digesting enzyme. That means this trypsin, it breaks the proteins into amino acid. That means this protein is a complex molecule, that means it cannot be absorbed by small intestine, whereas this amino acid, it is a simple molecule which can be easily absorbed by the small intestine. So our digestive system, that means our small intestine, it can absorb only simple nutrients. For that reason, this trypsin, it breaks the protein, that means complex molecule, into simple molecule, that is amino acid. And then next enzyme is amylase, which we have studied in the mouth, and this amylase, it breaks the remaining starch or any other carbohydrates into simple nutrient, that is glucose. So starch is complex molecule, whereas glucose is simple molecule which can be easily absorbed by the small intestine. And along with this, it also secrete one more enzyme which is called lipase. And you have to recall here that bile, it emulsifies the fat and helps in breaking of the large globules into small globules. And these small globules is acted by lipase enzyme, and this lipase, it breaks the small globule lipids into fatty acids and glycerol. So in the small intestine, proteins gets broken down into amino acids, starch into glucose, and lipids into fatty acids and glycerol. This protein, starch and lipids, these are complex molecules which cannot be absorbed by the small intestine, whereas amino acid, glucose and fatty acids are simple molecules, and these simple molecules can be easily absorbed by the small intestine. And then when the digestion of this food completes, the small intestine contains finger like projections on their inner wall like this. So these finger like projections are called as villi. So these villi, they have numerous blood capillaries like this. But here, whenever the food is present in a small intestine or which is after digestion, this digested food particle that gets absorbed by the small intestine, and the absorbed food is transported to the blood, and this blood, it carries the nutrients to the cell in the body where it is necessary. So this happens in the small intestine and in the villi. And one more important point here, we have to note that the length of the small intestine. If we consider the organism that is herbivore, so for example, commonly we can give the cow is an example. In case of carnivores, the length of the small intestine, length of this small intestine is longer. Why? Because since they are eating plant, they have cellulose, and for the breaking down of this cellulose they need much time. So for that reason, all herbivores, they have longer small intestine. And when we consider which kind of animal opposite, that is carnivore, so we will take the example such as lion. The length of the small intestine is somewhat short compared to that of herbivores, because they eat meat, and for the digestion of this meat they need less time. So for this reason they need short small intestine. So all these cases happens in small intestine. So we will move to the next part, that is large intestine. So after the complete digestion of the food in the small intestine, the food moves into large intestine after the absorption of the nutrients. Now when the food enters into the large intestine, as you can see in this picture here, undigested food is converted into fecus. So here the large intestine, it looks like question mark, right? So that means it also looks like a colon shape. In the large intestine, the food, we can say that the nutrients which are present in the food, it will not absorb because the villi are absent, but the undigested food, as you can see in the picture, is just converted into fecus. So this food from the large intestine, it moves forward, and here along with this movement, the large intestine, it secretes mucus, and this mucus, it makes the fecus to move forward easily, and then the undigested food reaches the part called as rectum. So where the rectum, it absorbs water, and then after absorption of the water, the food is, that means undigested food or the fecus is stored in the rectum, and then through anus the food is excreted, or we can say egestion. The food is exited from the alimentary canal through anus, and here we have a muscle called as anal sphincter muscle. So this anal sphincter muscle, it helps in releasing of the fecus from the alimentary canal. That means in the digestive system. So in this topic we have how many sphincter muscles? Two. One is near at the stomach, where it releases the food from stomach to small intestine, and then one more at the anus, which releases the fecus from the alimentary canal to the external surrounding. So this is about heterotrophic nutrition and how does the unicellular organisms and multicellular organisms obtain their food, right? And then at the end we have some questions. So to check your understanding, you had to solve this question. So please do that, and along with that, in the next video we will continue with the next topic of the life process, that is respiration. And if you like this video, so please subscribe to my channel and forward as much as you can, and press the bell icon to get the updates. Thank you.